Welcome back, everybody, to the Inside Track podcast, Equibase's weekly handicapping podcast, where we give our analysis, picks, and wagers for a couple of the weekend's top races. I'm your host, Ben Kudla, and I'm joined today by Corey Patton, fantastic handicapper, good dude, who's also the CEO and co-founder of Pramana Labs, which creates all the free Statlines handicapping content on Equibase.com. Statlines are available on the Equibase website for every race, at every track, every day, as well as Statlines top plays on the homepage. So thanks for being here again, Corey. Love having these conversations every week. Just had a quick question. What's kind of your favorite stat line? There's so many unique ones, so many different ones that you can use. But what do you kind of find most successful in your handicapping?
First of all, Ben, I appreciate you having me on. One of the highlights of the week. I look forward to this every week. When it comes to stat lines, it's a great question because there is so much content in there for every race at every track. What I think is super valuable for both the novice player to the super experienced player is the ability of a stat line to point out when trainers switch conditions. Okay, so when a trainer goes back and you say, okay, how does a trainer do when they go from, maiden special weight race directly into an optional allowance optional claiming race, or directly into a stake, or going from, a starter allowance into a 10,000 claimer. And our stat lines track all of those movements over the course of that trainer's history. And I think they're significant because spotting a horse is really as important as anything to figure out, is this horse being put in this position, this condition, this race, because that trainer knows what they're doing and they've done it consistently in the past. And a lot of those things get overlooked and are impossible to find without having every past performance that trainer has ever entered a horse in. So I think that's my favorite angle. It caches a lot, and I catch a lot of trainer movements that would be otherwise undetected moving from race class to race class.
I love it. Yeah, definitely a very substantial stat line. I love when you see, in the form you can see first, second, or third if they won their next time out. But stat lines, they'll go the 6th, 7th, and 9th place finisher came back to win their next start back. Those always hit for me. So by far, that's my favorite.
Indicating a key race is really good for me because you understand the class of it. But again, you are shut off past the third place finisher. So it's really helpful to have stat lines point those out and illuminate those opportunities.
Absolutely. So thank you. But so anyway, be sure to stay tuned for next week's show as we have a special guest on. Two-time Kentucky Derby winning trainer Doug O'Neill will be on the show. Incredibly excited to meet him. Have so many questions. So really looking forward to that conversation. You actually know him personally.
I do. I've worked with Doug in the past. He was a trainer of some horses that I had. Worked with him in the past for one of his clients at that time that I worked with as well. I've known him for quite a bit, almost 20 years, and two-time Kentucky Derby winner. Solid all-around great guy, and looking forward to picking his brain on some of his runners in the upcoming stakes races over the next month and a half.
That's going to be a fantastic show. I am so excited, so excited. But today's show, we got a great weekend of racing, graded stakes at Belmont at the Big A, Churchill Downs, Gulfstream, 5 graded stakes at Parx. But today's show will feature the Grade 3 Princess Rooney Invitational Stakes at Gulfstream Park, the Grade 2 Gallant Bob Stakes at Parx, in the Grade 1 Pennsylvania Derby. So let's just hop right into a Breeders' Cup winning year-end race for the Filly and Mare Sprint at Del Mar this November, the Grade 3 Princess Rooney Invitational Stakes at Gulfstream Park, 7 furlongs on the dirt for fillies and mares 3-year-olds and up. Field of 10 here. Last year's winner was Three Witches, who won by half a length at odds of 10-1 for trainer Safi Joseph Jr. with Lionel Reyes aboard. Safi and Victor Barboza Jr. Have 5 out of the 10 entries in this race on Saturday. So let's see how they fare. So what do you got here? I think we're kind of in similar boats of who we like, but.
Yeah, and you mentioned Safi winning it last year, and I just think he wins it again this year. This year, I think he wins it with Soul of an Angel. When you look at this race, this Grade 2 race, I didn't think it was terribly deep on class, and that's just honestly my opinion looking at the running lines of some of these horses. And when the only one that really stands out is Soul of an Angel. I mean, the horses Soul of an Angel has faced in the last 4 races since transferring to Safi Joseph are the who's who of the class. I mean, he's faced Idiomatic. I mean, look at that 2-back, losing by a head to Idiomatic, running a massive race, 2-back. He has faced Randomized, Raging Sea. I mean, multiple times in the last 4 races. And if you look at that, I think class just stands out. And there's nobody in this race that comes close to an Idiomatic. Okay, let's be honest. So if this horse can handle, the cutback in distance a little bit, I mean, if this horse understands the mission to stay close, I know Saffie Josephs can get this done. She lost her only 2 starts at Saratoga right off the bat at the gate this year in those Grade 1 races. But show me another Grade 1 horse in here that's just on class form right now. And I think this horse has a couple of multiple 100+ Equibase speed figures, 2 of the last 4. And I think honestly, just the class should get her home. Now, a couple of things of note here that I want to point out that are of slight concerns, but I think she can overcome it, because look at the difference in performance moving to Saffie back in May. It's just been 4 really, really strong races. And I think that, that will mitigate some of the 0 for 10 all time at Gulfstream. Okay. For this horse, none of those had Saffie, has not run a race at Gulfstream yet since the trainer move. The class, of these races is super stout. So Saffie and Drayden Van Dyke are 26% together lifetime. So they can get it done, even though Drayden's having the lackluster numbers performance at the meet. I think they've got enough to get it done just based on class. And I'm looking at Soul of an Angel for a winner circle on Saturday.
Yeah, I straight up agree with you on all that. The 0 for 10 was a little bit concerning, but yeah, like you said, Saffie didn't have her, but she's also still 5 for 10 in the money. It's not like she's completely run out. But yeah, when you look at that competition, and even Pretty Mischievous, she got, 5th too as well, the 2023 Kentucky Oaks winner. But yeah, she just has all the class in here. Saffie, I think, is just having this one to win. And I know you kind of mentioned Hall and Ice a little bit before the show, but yeah, I think for him, this is his clear winner. A little cut back in distance, to that 7 furlongs, which is always an interesting distance because it's not really a sprint, but it's not a route. Regardless, Saffie does win at 30% with horses going from routes to sprints and graded stakes races. Yeah, best average speed in the race as well with a 91 average. The morning lines aren't out, but I really doubt we're going to get any sort of a decent price.
No, I don't think so. I think there'll be some play on Beth's Dream on the outside, and obviously is razor sharp in good form right now. But just look at the running line of class versus the 2, and it's not even comparable. So I just think if class gets you through with a good break, Soul of an Angel should be the horse with all the momentum in the lane.
Oh, love it. Yeah, I think that's a clear winner. But I think the way to make money is underneath. And I know the stat lines aren't the greatest for this horse, but I really like this Uruguay horse, Pocholi, on the outside there, number 9 for Hernan Parra. So the only Grade 1 winner in this race, I think that, is substantial. I know it was in Uruguay, but she is the only Grade 1 winner, at the Hippodromo Nacional de Moronas in Uruguay. So she won that by 5 lengths, that Grand Premio, with a career best 115 Equibase speed figure. You can't see the speed figures on the website or the past performances, but they are on Raceline. So she did run a 115 there. She came back after that Grade 1 win to run against the boys in that Grade 2 Godolphin Mile at Maydon. Or no, it was a Phillies. Finished last, but she was against some really tough company. Won 4 graded stakes races in her life. Won 8 out of 12 of her last races. 4 bullet workouts in a row. Is against 1 or 2 horses, but it's still there. Last year horses, whose first race in North America at Gulfstream Park were winning at 21%, 42% in the money as well. That's a Raceline's angle. Stats on Hernan Parra do scare me a bit. 0 for 20 in the last 3 years in dirt sprint races at Gulfstream. But however, in the last 3 years at all tracks, he wins at 22% with horses going from routes to sprints, 2 of 9. Foreign shippers are always really interesting, tough to handicap, but I don't think she's going to be tough. I think people are going to kind of forget about her on the outside. So I'm going to put her in for second and try to hit a big exacta.
Yeah, she does like to win. 10 to 17 lifetime. Clearly, the last race, that competition, in the Godolphin Mile was tough. And, speaking of Doug O'Neill, his horse won that race at 2 Rivers Over. But I will also say 37.5 lengths. Was she ever really in that race? But I don't know. You have some stats that are interesting and some that maybe are concerning, but I don't really see a ton of other horses in here that say the same class as Soul of an Angel. So take a shot at a bigger price and see where it comes. I liked Hauling Ice a little bit. If you could just excuse the last race at Charlestown, I think she kind of fits. I know you're not a big fan of that horse, but when I look at it, it's Safi and Gonzalez, and Gonzalez is winning at 22% on the meet, so the jockey can get it done. Clearly, two back, that horse ran a nice 7 furlong race and won by 9.5 in the Azalea, and so this is a 7 furlong race. Can win from slightly off. May come running in the lane along with Soul of an Angel, and may run down Beth, and we'll see how it goes. But that would be Hauling Ice would be who I would put underneath in the Soul of an Angel. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, she did run 7th there at Charlestown, but Mystic Lake, who I think probably has the best chance of anybody to beat Torpedo Anna in the cotillion, but I think she'll not win. But anyway, I do like that filly, but. Yeah, and then Beth Stream, like you said, will probably take some money out there. 8 for 10 at Gulfstream, and
will likely be on the lead.
Yeah, and that's kind of tough out there, in the 10 hole. But coming off that really sharp win, that sheer drama handicap, going 7 furlongs on the dirt at Gulfstream, won by 4 lengths. Career best 101 Equibase speed figure, which is the highest Equibase speed figure last time out in this race. 1 for 1 at the 7 furlong distance. Best late pace rating, though, actually, with a 113, which I thought was interesting, being on the front end.
Very.
But yeah, won 6 out of her 8 races, including the last 4 in a row. Only 2 losses were on the synthetic and then a sloppy track. And she's 0 for 3 on the wet dirt. So that's also something to consider if there's a flash storm there at Gulfstream, which happens sometimes this time of year. Yeah, she doesn't really like that wet dirt. One concern I have, though, is she's only been in 1 greatest stakes race in her life, and she finished 7th by 18 lengths in that Grade 3 Molly Pitcher Stakes at Monmouth in July of 2022. Big reason why I think Soul of an Angel just outclasses her and is going to win. But she's a tough, consistent mare. Will be up there. I think what her odds will be a little bit generous of what she's worth. But regardless, still a nice mare. So
yeah, and I think when you handicap these things, and I think we've kind of circled our winner, and at this point you're looking for value underneath, and she's not going to be terrible value, because I think a lot of handicappers and folks that are maybe just pick up a form and do cursory evaluation, just look at all those ones and say, oh, look at all those wins, look at all those wins, second, third. You got to really consider the class of those wins, and I don't think that any can stand up to the class of Soul of an Angel in here.
I agree. Well, Corey and I both picked Soul of an Angel for the Grade 3 Princess Rooney, excuse me. So let's move on to the big day at Parx. So the Grade 2 Gallant Bob Stakes, 6 furlongs on the dirt for 3-year-olds. Field of 8 here. Last year's winner was Damon's Mound for trainer Michelle Lovell with Junior Alvarado aboard. Safi also has 2 entries in here, so here he goes running all over the country. But I thought this was a fantastic handicapping race. I think the favorite can be beaten, but I'd love to hear what you think.
Oh, yeah, I'm playing against the favorite, and it's not a huge play against. I'm going with the second choice with Bucarino. And I just honestly think there's a lot of angles that line up with this. Obviously, if we watch this race, which I think will be a really enlightening kind of second half of the race, it's really impressive to see what Bucarino did. He's gonna take the front end, and he's gonna make all the dirty work up front. He's gonna make every pole, and he's gonna widen to about a 6.5+ length victory, hanging on the wrong lead in the entire stretch. So when we watch this race, watch Bucarino come around into the stretch, into the lane, and is going to get challenged by another horse in this race, Maximus Meridius, on the inside. And Bucarino's on the outside and has gone 21-3, 44-3, done all the work. Those are blazing fractions. And watch, just hanging on the left lead, hanging on that lead, not switching leads, but nobody's coming for him. Nobody's making up any ground. And at that point in time, the 109 and change, okay, and then to widen the lead like this, I look at those other 2 horses in the race, including, Sunny Breeze and Maximus Meridius. Nobody's making up any ground. And if you go out and carve out 21-3, 44-3, 109 and stand and widen, who in this race is going to go with them, and who's going to be there at the end if that's the way that you can perform in the lane? And, even if he switches on time, perhaps it's actually even a wider, victory. And that just all goes to complement some of the other stats in here. I mean, it's 3 for 3 lifetime at Parx and has only won once on any other track. Loves this track. So put that in your corner. Another angle that Statlines posted, 6 consecutive increasing speed figures for Bucarino. How often do you see that? Means the horse is just getting better every single race, right? I mean, throw on the jockey. Let's go, Lascano. Look, 46% at the meet. You know,
killing it.
That's just 5 of 12, 42% over the last 30 days. You know, I mean, it's incredible what he's doing at this race, at this meet. 49-1 bullet on September 14th says ready. You know, the progeny of Bucaro win at 20%. 145 of 716 in sprint races on the dirt all time, but 52% in the money. So, and I mean, the average winning distance is, you know, 5.9 furlongs. So he has sprint pedigree, but has shown that can get out, get the lead, and can get the job done. I think that's your winner. That's my angle. And then I'll look for some more value underneath.
No, I love it. Yeah. I mean, I had a hard time picking against that horse as well, especially because I'm picking a horse that got third in that race by 9 1/4 lengths. But I'm going with Sunny Breeze here with the morning line 8-1. Started his career out undefeated, going 3 for 3, including a win in the Concern Stakes at Laurel Park back in July, running a 96, 102, and 103 Equibase speed figure respectively in his first 3 races, and it actually ranked first in this race in average speed and class. Tough class outing, finishing third there to Bucarino, and 3 lengths to Maximus Meridius. If you watch that race like we did, the whole thing, he really didn't have any excuse. So I'm not even going to try to make one. I'm just going off numbers here. So Edward Allard and Jamie Rodriguez, they're winning at 43% together in the last 3 years across all tracks and all races. They went 50% together at Parx in the last 3 years. It's just 1 for 2 of all time. But anyway, but here's my favorite. They went at 83% together and 100% in the money in stakes races together all time, 5 of 6. Jamie Rodriguez is winning at 43% in the last 30 days in stakes races. There's a stat line for you, 3 of 7. Back at the 6 furlong distance here, where he's 1 for 1 winning that AOC 75 back in July at Delaware Park. I'm going to take a shot here for Sunny Breeze. And I think his running style, he can be off the lead. I mean, he won, you know, coming off for 4 lengths back. And there's going to be a lot of speed with Ben Tornado on the front and Bucarino. So, and One Sharp Cookie as well with Safi and Mike Smith, which is a crazy stat of them together. They hardly lose when Safi rides Mike Smith, but I think he's more there for Mystic Lake. But I could be wrong. But so I'm going with the 8-1 Sunny Breeze, number 4. But what do you think about this favorite?
Yeah, I was going to get into that. Okay, so the Ben Tornado, I mean, the 112 jumps out at you. I think it's misleading. Yeah. I think we handicapped the Pacific Classic earlier, where the Il Miracolo had this 122 that we said this just looks odd, right? Mm-hmm. I think the 112 just looks odd compared to the rest of his running line. You know, it's Charlestown, so those numbers sometimes are tough to really handicap and post next to each other. But that 112, if you look at the 112 and you say, okay, that's a 112. I mean, that is. Over the past 45 days, that's the best speed figure of any 3-year-old stakes non-winner at any track that is yet to run back. So it jumps out and it says, "Okay, take a look," right? And that's a big stat line. You know, and he's faced the same opponent, Bookham Dano, that Bucarino did. Bucarino did it in the Saudi Derby, albeit that was a mile, and here it's a sprint race, and they both lost by almost the exact same to that horse. And here's where I think it's a bet against for me. And I you know, the speed, I think Bucarino will probably have the lead based on just fractions that Bucarino cut out at Parx. It may be close. We'll see. The Bucarino's got the inside post, but we'll see. Sire Valiant Minister hasn't thrown a graded stakes winner yet, ever. Okay, so this will be the first. Never raced at Parx, so this track we don't know how Ben Tornado will do at this track. We do know how Bucarino will do at this track. You know, the trainer, Jose D'Angelo, he's 1 for 6 all time at Parx with a negative ROI. Ortiz, Irad Ortiz Jr., that's fantastic to have him up. I love that. But I just think that horse will be at 9-5 is just, I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not going to play it, and I'm going to take straight up on Bucarino to win.
Okay, love it. Yeah, I mean, kind of like we're talking about last race with Soul of an Angel. I mean, look at the horses this guy's been running against. Forever Young and Bookham Dano, Tapalo, who I really like that horse a lot. He's not, you know, maybe on paper not the best, but you know, he did beat him last time out. So he's been running against some tough company. The thing that I found most interesting is you look back from August to December of last year, he was bumped at the start in every single race and won 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 4. So, I mean, he does, you know, kind of get in trouble, but he comes back and wins. So I do got to hand to him. He is tough with that. And I do like Irad Ortiz Jr. aboard, but I don't know. I just think there's more out here, and 9 to 5 is just a little bit too low. But that's kind of my thoughts. So
Yeah, I just think it's a beatable favorite in my mind, and you got to take a stand somewhere in some of these races, and I just think it's there are some negative aspects that I'm just going to lean against that 9 to 5 price.
Yeah, what do you think about that Maximus Meridius horse?
I mean, if you watch the last race against my horse Bucarino, had every right cutting into the lane to go on with it, right, and just didn't. Kind of got up at the neck of Bucarino, turning for home, and then had nothing left. So it's really hard to look at how that's gonna I mean, maybe the second time after the gelding will turn the horse around and be an improved performance. But no, potentially. I like Rosario up quite a bit. So look for that horse to have a much better run, clearly, than he did last time, and maybe have a little bit more in the lane. But it's hard to make a case for that horse over the top choice anyway, for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think probably the most interesting stat for me was this is his second start since being reported as a gelding. With Robert Reed, that actually bodes very well. He only has 2 starts in stakes races with horses with second starts since reported as gelding, but he's won one of them and gotten second in the other. So something to consider. He could be up there. I think he'll be a nice price. I think he'll be a little over 5 to 1 for sure.
Does have some back class. Okay, has run in the Woody Stevens has run, grade 1 race. Has had Rosario up before with a second place effort back in the day with the Gold Fever Stake. So there is history with those connections. But again, taken a stand against with Bucarino, and I'll live or die with that horse.
Okay, I love it. I love it. So, all right, you're Bucarino. I got Sunny Breeze. So, last but not least, let's move on to the $1 million Grade 1 Pennsylvania Derby. Mile and an eighth on the dirt for 3-year-olds. Last year's winner was Saudi Crown for trainer Brad Cox with Florent Drew aboard. Went by half a length as the 1-to-1 favorite. Brad Cox and Drew have a very good chance to repeat here with Dragoon Guard. And also, here's kind of an interesting stat. Favorites have won the last 3 years in a row at the Pennsylvania Derby and 7 out of the last 10 years. So kind of tough to make money in this race, but who knows? We'll see. I think I know what you're going to say, but
there's a way to do it, but you're going to have to beat the favorite to do it, and I don't think you will. I think you can hook up a little bit of a price right underneath and just do a cold exacto on this. But in this race, it's interesting to look at the trainers in here and how they've done. And multiple trainers in here have won this race. Mott's won the race twice. Safi's won it once. Pletcher's won it. Cox has won it. Brown's won it. Even Dwayne Lucas has won it. So they all have experience with this race, and so they can all get the job done in this Pennsylvania Derby for sure. I just think this horse, Dragoon Guard, is a really up-and-coming star. I think this horse has got a ton of high-speed motor. I think it's just the cruising speed is incredibly high. I think there's a ton of bottom in this horse. I think it's got great breeding. I think it's got great connections. And I think this horse, if you watch 2 back at Horseshoe Indianapolis, the race you're about to pull up, I just think this horse, watch him break from the outside post here, and it's just going to go straight to the lead. And there's other horses trying to go for the lead, but the cruising speed, he's asked a tiny bit, not much though, really.
That's
really
Stronghold, the number 2 there as well. He got a really nice start.
Got a great start, but Dragoon Guard just says, I'm going to cruise around everyone, and just goes from the outside post right to the lead and is going to let everybody else play for second. The race was won right there. And that horse just kind of cruised around the track and won. I mean, this horse made its career debut back in September of last year as that 2-year-old, going 7 furlongs, which is an incredibly tough ask first out, and lost by a neck to a next out winner and came right back to win. Went to the bench for about 7 months before coming back in a 7-furlong race at Keeneland and just dominating, and has really just gone up the ladder every race since, winning 2 Grade 3 stakes events and had consecutive 104+ Equibase speed figures, right? The horse is just getting better and showing class, right? So Cox won it last year, as you said. Lifetime Cox wins at 17% at Parx, but 17 of 24 in the money. So always consistently right there around the winner's circle. If you look at that 59-3 bullet drill on September 7th at Churchill, says ready. I look at this horse being ultra impressive in all 5 career starts and then won those last 4 in a row with relative ease. Watch the stretch run here. Barely asked. You got Stronghold trying to come in the middle of the track. You got EJ won the Cup down the middle, Doug O'Neill horse, who just won the St. Louis Derby with absolute ease. This horse just had everything more when asked. Just look at this horse just say, Stronghold comes, and then
he's surging, but He's
gone.
still Dragoon Guard's still going.
I mean, Drew just showed him the whip and was slowing down at the wire. Okay, slowing down at the wire. So I mean, just under a wrap at that point in time. Comfortable win against some other horses that are pretty quality in there. Arrogate, 23% in dirt route races at Parx career. Okay, that's pretty good. And one other fact: barring any scratches, post position 7 is leading all posts in wins and winning percentage at 9 furlongs on dirt at Parx over the last year. So can win from that post as well. So I think Dragoon Guard makes the lead. I think Dragoon Guard makes everybody come and get him. And I think sadly at 9-5, we'll get probably lower than that at post time. I think that horse wins again for Brad Cox and for on Drew.
I agree. Yeah, on paper he looks pretty unstoppable. But there are some, different stat lines out there as well. Here's one that I got on shift since 1991. There's only been one horse to win the Pennsylvania Derby that came out of the West Virginia Derby. That was Math Wizard back in 2019. Won at 31-1 for Saffie. But yeah, he just looks really unstoppable. Best average speed in the race. Beat Stronghold. Breezing really well. I like how you brought up Arrogate. He actually wins at 22% in dirt route races all time. I mean, as we saw with Seize the Gray back in the Preakness. But yeah, I'm gonna try to beat him though. I like that horse a lot and on paper, yeah. And if I get beat by him, that's okay. But I'm gonna go with the 8 Unmatched Wisdom here with a morning line of 8-1. Undefeated in his first 3 starts with Flavian Pratt aboard, and Pratt's back on him today. Or on Saturday, excuse me. Ran a career best 107 Equibase speed figure, which is the highest speed figure of any horse in here, including the favorite Dragoon Guard. He's the second best average speed in class in the race. On paper, that Travers looked pretty horrific, right? For Unmatched Wisdom, finishing 7th by 18 lengths. However, he does have an excuse. So he's bumped at the start pretty hard, never close to the front like he usually is. And also a wrap came loose on his back leg, was flapping in the wind. So I'm gonna just straight up cross that race off. Other than that, I mean, he's 2 for 2 at this 1.125 distance. Chad Brown and Flavian Pratt, not to be taken lightly in graded stakes races. In the past year, they're winning at 38% clip, 62% in the money in graded stakes races together, 16 wins from 42 starts, 26 in the money. Here's another cool stat line. So since 1991, 19 horses who previously ran in the Travers finished in the money in the Pennsylvania Derby, and that includes 6 winners. And 4 of the last 10 winners of the Pennsylvania Derby ran in the Travers as well. Ton of similarities as well with 2016 Pennsylvania Derby winner Connect, who was also trained by Chad Brown. Both these horses won the Curlin Stakes to Saratoga before finishing out of the money in the Travers. And then also Connect came back and won at 10-1 in the Pennsylvania Derby. And here's Unmatched Wisdom at 8-1. So kind of scary similarities. And I'm gonna go for the price. I love your Dragoon Guard. I'll put him, box these 2 up, but I think he's gonna do it today. I think he's gonna run a monster race for Klaravich Stables. And yeah, Brown and Pratt. I mean, it's hard to bet against them.
We're aligned. We're aligned. I watched that race. This is exactly my 2 horses I came up with. Exactly the same. Great minds think alike. I guess great is probably a strong word here, but our minds think alike on this. But I think that in looking for an excuse in that race, I mean, just completely wrapped up, not persevered with at all. Might have even bled. I mean, ran like a horse that I don't even know what the excuse was really. But horse just got completely wrapped up and said, we're just done here for today. Right. And if you put a line through that race, go back to that 107. That's the best number in this field. Right.
Yep.
So 2 back. And I mean, again, Brown and Pratt, 40% together in route races over the last 21 days, 3 of 10, 30%, 5 times in the money all time in stakes races at Parx. I mean, it's an embarrassment of riches. I like to say every week when you get a Brad Cox, Flavian Pratt, or Chad Brown, Flavian Pratt combo. I mean, it's hard to overlook them. So I think at 8-1, I'll take that all day underneath, and I'll probably just do Dragoon Guard over Unmatched Wisdom and make that a nice cold deck exacta. I do think, however, I just wanted to bring up, you brought up Stronghold before. Yeah. I think Stronghold at 5-2 is a play against in my mind. And I mean, D'Amato and Freyu 0 for 12 in stakes route races together over the last 90 days. Had a really odd trip last out in that Derby the Indiana Derby that we watched. Didn't really see an excuse that would cause me to think he could turn the tables on Dragoon Guard. D'Amato has never started a horse at Parx. Freyu has never ridden a horse at Parx, so I think that's at 5-2. That's too low a number for me to even consider.
Yeah, I agree. 5-2 is way too low. But in his point, though, you know, those Derby races, I mean, Kentucky Derby races are so difficult, so tough on these horses. So maybe he just needed that race to come back, you know, and he's been laid off since then. But also here, more stat lines. So since 1991, 24 horses who ran the Kentucky Derby finished in the money, Pennsylvania Derby, and that includes 10 wins. Also, Phil D'Amato is at 990 wins, by the way. So that's exciting. He's got 10 wins before that big 1,000. That has really nothing to do with Stronghold. But
none of those came at Parx. So
and none of those came at Parx. I love this horse for the Derby. There's only been one horse who has come out of the Santa Anita Derby to win the Pennsylvania Derby. That was Tyba with Bob Baffert. Yeah, I don't know. That outside's going to be tough. I'm rooting for him. I like this horse just on a hunch, but yeah, 5-2 is just way too low.
I didn't like the way that they looked like Stronghold in the last race against Dragoon Guard was making up ground and then just stopped. You know, I mean, it's either Dragoon Guard had another gear or Stronghold just, again, maybe needed the race. Maybe has a better performance today. I'm just going to play against from that outside post at that price.
Yeah, I totally agree. I do have one question before we go. Do you think Seize the Gray has another win in him? Maybe not this Saturday in the Pennsylvania Derby, but
yeah, look, Dwayne Lucas, man, he pops when you don't expect it. And I think he's got a horse that the reason I looked at Season here, obviously Arrogate, obviously the Preakness win, obviously he's got speed. I mean, he might be the horse that just they send and say, okay, get out there and stay and go as far as you can with Dragoon Guard, because we know he's got speed. We know he can do that. I don't know if he can stay and stick at that pace. We saw him on a suicide mission, earlier in the Belmont. So I just have to see whether he wants to do that today. I think he's got another win, but it's not going to be against this group at this level, probably.
I agree. But hard not to root for the coach and young Jamie Torres, who's made his way on the scene in a big way. But
coach has won this before, so he knows how to win it. And you never overlook when you overlook a Dwayne Lucas horse is when they pop against you.
That's true. It's really true. But, all right, so there we have it, Dragoon Guard and Unmatched Wisdom for our top two. But thank you so much for watching, everybody. Be sure to tune in for that Doug O'Neill interview next week. This has been fun, Corey. Thank you for being on again.
As always, Ben. See you next week.
Good luck, everybody.